I just wanted to ask you, doesn't it seem a little odd or a little weird that there can be an all-powerful, all-loving God, and that there can also exist the type of gratuitous suffering that we see around us in the world? Like, how do you kind of make these two things work?
That's because suffering makes you a better, more compassionate individual. Through suffering and pain, we're actually able to recognize what happiness and joy is. If you've never suffered or you've never had pain in your life, you would be probably a very selfish, entitled human being. I don't know if you've ever met like someone rich or higher class, but most of arrogant people have indeed have easy lives without suffering, as you've just said. So I actually think the contrary. I think really the people who have suffered the most are the most compassionate souls I have ever met in my I do believe that suffering exists for a reason. Absolutely.
Okay, but I just want to correct you over here. I'm not talking about suffering itself. I said gratuitous suffering. So, in other words, an excessive level of suffering or, frankly, an unnecessary level of suffering. So, I can acknowledge that to a certain extent, yes, suffering does help you in your growth. It can help you in becoming a better person. Like, to a certain extent, right? Like suffering is the thing or the motivator that can push you, for example, to study and to grind and to become a doctor after years and years and years of studying. Like it's not simple, it's not easy. Obviously, that itself is like a trial. But I'm not talking about this kind of thing. More so, I'm talking about things that really just don't have a reason, like cannot be explained. So I'll give you an example.
Sure.
Why should a child be born with this ridiculous neurodegenerative disease that like kills them in like a year or two? Or, why should a random deer in the forest just get killed by some natural disaster? Like, what does this suffering actually bring to the world? Like, why should it exist? What character growth is this like helping with? And could there not be alternative methods to achieve and accomplish the same character growth without this like disgusting suffering?
No, maybe there can't.
But doesn't that go against the idea of an all-powerful, all-knowing God? Because you would expect that such a being could easily find alternative methods around this without, imposing this type of suffering.
It maybe he could, but maybe suffering is also, as I said, and
Well,
is important and not just meaningless suffering, because I think that only God can make for example, like even your declarative things, like, okay, some suffering is meaningful and some suffering is meaningless. And what I'm saying is, no, we can't, because we're human beings, we can't be the arbiters of deciding what someone's pain and suffering has made them and whether or not it was actually good for them or not. Like you saying that or me saying that would just be an opinion. We would need someone that is actually smarter than both of us, right? That could, make that kind of judgment, which is why Christians pray God, because Christians think that even us, as people, we couldn't make always the best decision. They have to go to somebody else. Somebody else has to delegate it. That would be smarter than both of us. That would be able to be like, oh, this suffering is useless, but this suffering is useful. And you and I don't have the ability to make those decisions. We can't say either way.
Okay, but like, this is the problem fundamentally. Even if you say that our decision making is suspect, if our decision making is dubious, at the end of the day, we're still relegating a lot on our own faith when we say, hey, look, this God that we happen to worship has the answers. This God that we happen to worship has knowledge on what suffering is meaningful and what suffering is meaningless. But even the choice of deciding what this God is a choice grounded in human belief, human faith. So listen, you can believe, for example, that a random priest is a lot more intelligent than you on this subject matter, or a random pagan god is a lot more intelligent than you on this subject matter. But that doesn't mean your decision to trust the words of this other entity who you believe is more intelligent than you, who you believe has your best intentions in mind, that that doesn't mean that they do have your best intentions in mind. It doesn't mean that what they're saying is true or accurate, or that in fact they even exist at all. Again, like if you want to call into question the legitimacy of human thought, then you have to do it in all contexts, not just, cherry pick it when we say this is thought that comes from humans rather than from a divine source. Because even what we label as a divine source is ultimately a human label.
That can be your belief, and obviously it would be your belief because you believe in God, but it isn't mine, and that's fine. We're not going to disagree on this, but when I look at the world, I see a world won by global elitist pedophiles who are incredibly satanic, who murder children and get away with it. I see the rich and the greedy constantly get away with very, very evil satanic. I don't have a faith in our political system. I do not have a faith in America's education system. I don't have a faith in the wars that America wages just for purely money. When I look at all of these other systems that you're saying, like, oh, we should go by all of these other systems, I'm actually saying, no, all of those other systems are greedy and corrupt because they're run by people that are greedy and
Uh,
corrupt.
they're run by Jews for the most part, who are greedy and
Well,
corrupt.
okay, you get my flow there, but I don't want to, know what I mean, say that, but you get my flow. So no,
But
I don't think that any of these other institutions, like for example, you said that we're going to put in our trust and our faith in a lot of institutions. We do this with science. We do this with Harvard as a university. You know what I mean? We do this with Brandeis, the same university that Jeffrey Epstein was molesting little girls to. So no, I disagree with a lot of what you're saying. I don't think that any of these institutions
It
have
is.
my best interest as much as Jesus Christ or the institution of God. No.
so I'm not I'm not making a normative claim. I'm not saying that you have to put your faith in particular institutions. That's not what I'm saying. Instead, I'm making a descriptive claim. I'm saying you already put your faith in certain higher powers or certain institutions. And I'm saying that this judgment call you're making to say that your faith in Jesus Christ is going to lead you to a better place than your faith, say, in Harvard or your faith in science. I'm saying this faith is fundamentally human, and you've already just called into question the legitimacy or value of human faith. You've said that this faith can be flawed and, that humans are imperfect, that humans don't know any better. So, I'm asking you, what is the criteria you use to establish which is better and which is worse? I don't think you can have any non-human criteria to do this, because even if you believe that the metrics for evaluation come from an external, non-human, divine source, that's still a belief. It's still open to interpretation. So you can't escape, epistemically, the fact that at the end of the day, when you make a decision about how the world is, about which system is better for the world, you can't escape the fact that you're limited to human reasoning.
Yeah, of course. But you're asking me to answer you questions that are within the limit of my human reasoning. You asked me to answer, for example, the first question of this, which was what types of suffering are necessary and which types are not. And what I'm trying to explain to you very gently is that no human could ever answer that question. This question is impossible to be answered. And if you knew that, you wouldn't have asked.
I think it is possible to answer the question. Would you expect to see this type of world? Well,
How
I'm
would
giving
you?
an inductive argument.
Go ahead.
Um,
Okay, go ahead then.
yeah, so when we view things like certain traits, we wouldn't expect certain types of outcomes to manifest. For example, if we are having a race, and if we know the parameters of the race, like the judges are fair and there's cameras to record exactly when each person started, each person finished, in such conditions, you wouldn't expect cheating to happen. And even if it did happen, it would be flagged and detected right away. But imagine in this system, despite all these supposed controls, a cheater still gets away and a cheater still gets first place, right? Neither you nor I is going to believe that that is a fair system. Neither you nor I is going to believe that these supposed parameters of fairness were actually correctly applied here. And in the same situation, if we are to be told that there is this all-loving, all-powerful, all-knowing God that wants the best outcome for humanity, if such a God is managing the world, or at least created the world for us, then we wouldn't expect the kind of unnecessary suffering that we see. And again, you say that we can't determine what suffering is like unnecessary, what suffering is necessary. And to that, I'm simply saying, well, we have to make a judgment call, and that's what we're doing.
Yeah, so people can't make very good judgment calls. Is again why Christians created Christ, is because we realize that as people we sometimes punish the innocent. We don't always get it correct. And if you look at the modern day or like the modern judicial system, I don't think you need like a magnifying glass for me to tell you that. Like I think you should be able to see that everywhere. Corruption within government, corruption within politics,
I
corruption
mean,
within
was
the
there
health.
not corruption in Christianity? Wasn't
Yes,
slavery allowed?
yes, there's corruption within everything. Yes.
So I thought it was Christianity is perfect now.
No, God is perfect. The system of Christianity is imperfect because
Do you
the system
think
of
do you think like
Christianity
when
is ran
God
by people.
commanded do you think when God commanded the Israelites to slaughter a bunch of tribes down to down to everyone really, like their women, their children, even their animals, do you think that was also like some kind of justice being played out?
Yes, yeah. I think that everything God does is just because God is a
That's
just
that's like
person.
that's literally exactly what a cult is. I hope you realize that.
That is literally what every Christian believes. That is every
And
Christian
I
that is
believes.
don't I
definitionally
don't
a
think
cult.
every Christian believes like the slaughter of the
Yes,
Amalekites was like a
every
good thing. They just say that
every
it was something that happened due to
every
the conditions of the time. I think there's a lot of people
every
who say this.
every there was slaughter of many people, not just the Amalekites. For example, the when the Jews were leaving Egypt. I mean, how many chances did God give like the Egyptian king to let the Jewish people go before having to slaughter people?
Yeah, but
We
one
read
thing you have
those.
to
So
understand is that this
there's
was
many.
collective punishment, right? This
Just
was
one
like a
second.
genocide,
Just
right?
one second.
They didn't just kill the people who were
No, it
directly
wasn't collective.
responsible for
Okay. No, it
persecuting the
wasn't
Jews. They
collective.
also went after the children. Like the infants were, they had their heads dashed onto the rocks.
Yes, that's because they did the same to the Jews.
But
The
they were
punishment was also
infants. They
collective
didn't they,
because
they didn't do
they're
anything.
yes, yes, they did do stuff to infants. Moses literally got led into the river. The reason why Moses gets led down that same river is because that is the same river that they would take Jewish babies and throw them in there for food for the
No,
alligators.
no, no. You're
That's
not understanding what
all
I
in the
said.
Bible.
I said the Israelites killed the children of the other Canaanite tribes. I'm saying these children were innocent. They didn't do anything to the Jewish people. They didn't persecute the Jewish people. A lot of them are like very, very young.
Yes, we okay, all Christians believe that everything God did, even if you think it's killing another person that was innocent, we believe that what God did was right and just because we believe that everything God does is the truth and the best way to do something.
Do you realize what
That's
you're
what
saying?
every Christian believes.
You're saying just because these certain people did something that was bad, that makes it completely moral and okay for other people to do the same thing. That's completely illogical,
No, I'm
and
saying
it's
that if
completely not
God
moral.
no, I'm saying that if God says it, then it is completely logical and it is
That
completely
makes
moral.
no sense. That's oh my god.
Okay, so
And do you have a way
let me
to
try to
show that
do
it is
yeah,
logical or
let
that
me
it
try
is
to
moral in like a consistent fashion without once again
Wait,
referring to God, like without begging
yeah,
the
so
question,
like
I mean?
the reason that it would be a good thing for God to kill a bunch of people that are rapists, barbarians, and also kill a bunch of people because
And
those
also
people were
children, right? You have to include
making,
that part.
yeah, yeah. So all of those children would have grown up to do the same thing because they come from that family. And that's their
okay,
values. They believe that that is
But
correct.
there are ways to correct people and to change their behavior without killing them, right? Like just because we see someone born
But
from a criminal, we don't say, "Hey,
maybe
we
in
should kill the
that time,
kids too."
yeah, maybe in that time period, no. Maybe in that time period, if someone killed your father and mother in front of you, you would probably always hate them and harnor revenge against them.
But
That's
there
but it
is
doesn't
like
really
this
really.
critical
what it means
distinction that you're
there.
forgetting. The distinction that you're forgetting is this is God. Like he's not compelled to follow like the standards of the time. He can present himself in miraculous ways to these children to fix them, to change them. They just need a guiding hand. And like, look, some of them are infants. They didn't even know what was happening to their parents, and they were still killed.
Yes, like I said, I don't, like I said, I think killing evil is a good thing. I think that killing evil people is a good thing. That's what I think.
Okay, Red Velvet. So you were talking about how politicians are corrupt, right? So what if they tomorrow just came out and say God told me to do it? What are you gonna say? How are you gonna prove that they're wrong? Like, you know what I mean? What are you gonna do?
What if they say like God
God
what?
commanded them. They were talking to them. God talked to them and commanded them to do it. What are you gonna say?
I don't know. I don't think I
Exactly.
have.
That's exactly where your argument fails. So
Well,
at
I
that point,
think
you're just gonna condemn everything.
I'm going to
Every school
respond,
shooter will
but
be like, God
I
commanded me to
guess
do it.
you don't want to talk. But it like
Go
I
ahead.
wouldn't like I said earlier, right? Because people are imperfect, we can't always tell like if someone's testifying that we're telling the truth or not. We just
Okay.
invented
So do you believe the Bible?
all of these things that you guys reference and talk about are very, very new, relevant concepts. And you're really using a modern day like lens to judge the past, which I think is
Yes, because humans evolved and we got
no,
smarter.
that's not intelligent. We shouldn't be using a modern day lens to examine like historical things. We should be using historical
Okay.
lenses to examine that. That's not intelligent.
So then,
Do you believe
under
in the
the
Bible?
historical lens, then what is the justification to order the genocide of like entire tribes, right? And you have to also consider that
I just
there's
gave
a
you the
God
reason.
over here that supposedly is all
Yeah,
loving, supposedly is all powerful. So it's not as though he didn't have other options that would have been more peaceful, that would have been capable of, producing just as positive of outcomes without necessitating the slaughter of children, right? Like, we don't have to take on a
maybe he
modern view of
did.
this.
We don't know. Again, that's purely assumptive, so it's not a good argument because we can't say either way. That's why it's
I'm
not a good
pretty sure
argument.
we could, but yeah, I want to like
No,
push
we
back on
can't.
this like
Definitely.
assumptive question. This is not an assumption I'm making, it's a conclusion that I'm getting to after going through the available evidence. So we know that God is all powerful, we know that God is all knowing. Therefore, it follows that he has the best interests of people in mind and that he has the
That so
power
killing
to
those babies
change.
and killing those people was the best interest for everyone in mind. Yes.
But that is the
Yes.
assumption.
Yes, yes. I'm making an assumption and you're making an assumption. That's why this isn't a good
Well,
argument for the fifth
okay,
time.
Red Velvet. Red Velvet, do you believe in the Bible?
Yes.
And it was written by humans, so you're literally saying you trust human reasoning there, but everywhere else human reasoning doesn't exist, basically. Like that's literally that's
I trust human reasoning. I do not trust my own reasoning to judge somebody else's life. Those two things should be very, very separate. I can trust human reasoning for them to sell me an air conditioner, and I don't have to trust human reasoning for me to walk into like a judicial lobby, a courtroom, and put somebody to death. Those are two extremely different concepts. One is actually weighing somebody's life on the line, and the other one, I'm only risking my own if I want to buy a product, if I want to buy a dress. Okay, like in my life, I really haven't made a lot of decisions that, affect somebody else's, like whether or not they live or die. And I have done that because I know what I'm saying is true. That's why.
I mean
So,
I mean
so yes, when
you
I go
said
just to an air conditioner, I'm really not afraid of what you're saying because it's not relevant.
you said if you don't believe in Jesus that you won't die, but then I pointed out that if you don't believe in God, then he flooded the earth to try to kill, or he did kill man, right? So if you don't believe in him, he
That
kills you.
wasn't just because they didn't believe in God. Like you need to reread the
That was a
story.
what? You cut
It
out.
wasn't just because of Oh, I said that wasn't just because they didn't believe in God, but
Okay,
okay,
what
like
then what?
well the flood happened because everyone was doing so much sin and so much immorality that the world went
So do you
into
not have free will?
And
Like
but
I'm
that's not
confused.
true though,
yeah,
because if you
yes,
say
yes,
everyone was doing
yes.
this, remember
Okay, can you
again,
just
a lot of children
oh
were
my
killed by
god.
the floods.
Wait, so
Yeah,
what?
children can be evil. I that might be a difficult concept for you to grasp, but children can be
What?
evil. Yes, children are
Are we
capable of killing
serious?
people. Yes,
Okay, so
children have
generally
been
we
treated
understand
differently.
that children
I,
can't
I
really be held
literally,
accountable.
I
Like, look,
literally,
I want to just
I,
state this
no, no,
clearly.
no, and
We
I'm not saying that
understand
for a second
that
because you guys
children
are both like,
don't have a
okay, if you
developed
guys are gonna
prefrontal
talk over
cortex. They
me
don't
and I
have
can't
the
like
developed neural
respond,
anatomy
then I
to
will
really
debate with you.
understand the ramifications of what they're doing,
I'm gonna give you
right?
2
Like, this
seconds
is
to either
important.
allow me to respond or I won't debate with you. Like if you guys constantly over interrupt me, constantly.
Why are you so mad?
That I just told you because you're not going to be like you can't interrupt me. I have to be able to make a point and respond to you, or else I won't have a discussion with both of you. I'm asking you to be mature. If you can't handle that,
Yeah,
I will
nobody
not.
interrupted you.
I literally am responding to one of your points, and then you both like interrupt and talk over me, and then we like lose it. So I that's getting frustrating for me, and I won't do it again. That's like the last warning I'll give, but whatever.
Alright, so I'll just explain why it doesn't make sense to say that children are evil. For one, we know that children don't fully have developed prefrontal cortexes. They're still growing. They're still not at a level of maturity that would allow them to be fully aware of the ramifications of their actions or to allow them to really have deep insight on whether the thing that they're doing is right or wrong. Maybe they have it to a superficial sense, like, hey, I probably shouldn't eat, all these candies before dinner. But like, the point is that children don't, fully and properly have a grasp of this. They grow, and in their adulthood, they eventually will have a better ability to do these things. But prior to that point, we don't hold them accountable for many of the serious things that they've done. Like usually, we blame their parents for it if they've done something wrong, or we let them go. We teach them to be better. But no one, I don't think would suggest that we should kill them
Or
for
not.
their actions.
That depends on how bad the actual thing is. But no, we don't just let children go when they kill their parents or something like this. No, we don't. Absolutely not. It's ridiculous. And we don't
When
wait
have
until someone is. We also don't wait until someone is like 25 to punish them. That's also a ridiculous thought. Your brain doesn't develop until 25, and yet we are still out here punishing 18-year-olds for being adults. So none of what you said is even applicable to the things that you even want to judge these people on. It's just all narrative and all what you believe. But that's not how the real world works.
That's just not true because what she's saying, your prefrontal cortex does not have to be fully developed. But comparing a child to someone who's like 20, their level of consciousness is completely different, and they have logical reasoning. So them committing a crime like murdering someone is completely different from a child doing it. Do you like
and I just want
not
to
see the
add
difference?
Okay, sure,
I
sure,
just want
yeah,
to
and
add that I
I do
never
think that
referenced
children
Velvet.
are
I'm
capable
talking.
of doing
Velvet.
that.
I'm
Pretty
talking.
clear.
Velvet. I'm talking. So I just want to add that I never referenced any particular age. I didn't say you should only be held accountable at 25, and I didn't say you should only be held accountable after your brain is fully, completely, 100% done developing. There is a
Okay,
threshold you
when
have to
should you
reach
be held
before.
accountable?
Velvet. I'm still talking. You need to let me respond. So I'm just saying that there is a threshold we have to reach, practically speaking, before we start holding children accountable for what they've done. And generally, that point is when we know that they can understand the consequences of their actions. So, for example, you can't say that a baby who doesn't even have object permanence yet, like who can't know that objects are still existing when the objects are not in front of them, we can't say that this baby really has meaningful accountability for any of the actions this baby is committing. But under the model of the
Yes,
flood,
you
even
can, but
such
God
babies were
can.
killed.
Yeah, because you can't, but God can.
That's literally
Because
what
you're
a
not
cult is,
an
bro. Do you
intelligent
not
person.
understand?
No, that's just God. Like that is just God. God is a divine
Yeah, that's
judge.
just cool. That's just a cult.
Yes, that's God. God is the divine judge of everyone's morality.
So can you
No,
tell me
that's not true.
Morality,
precisely
Morality is
because
what
completely
evil the
you
subjective, by
babies
the
were
way.
committing? Because
you
earlier you
you
mentioned
are
something about
okay. Both of you are
patricide.
too stupid to divinely judge anybody because you can't look at everyone's lives and judge every choice that they ever made. Saying that you can morally judge someone is the most retarded thing any person could ever say on this planet because it is impossible for you to do so. Okay, the only person that can do that is God. That's why all of your dumb arguments about moral assumptions or assuming whether or not children are evil are stupid. right? Is because nobody gets to make that call except for God. It's all assumptive. That's why even psychology is called a social science for this reason. It's not a part of STEM education. The reason for that is because like it's kind of up to interpretation. So yes, like a lot of these things are very, very relevant, and we're just kind of gish galloping around it. We don't understand how the world works. But no, that's why I thought your entire thing about, whether or not someone's brain is developed was completely fucking irrelevant, is because the court system and no system operates under that bound point. Nobody operates under this. So that's why it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter that you think that. It doesn't matter about the sad violin. What matters is how the world actually works. And thank God you aren't in charge of it.
Are you done responding?
Yes.
So I just wanted to say that it's patently false that the courts around the world don't consider age when it comes to how they should sentence people for their various crimes. And in certain cases, like, a thing might not even be a crime, depending on the age of the person doing it. So the idea that courts don't take into account a person's biological maturity or like mental maturity is just, it doesn't track with reality. And on the second point, I wanted to ask you in particular, what exactly is the evil a 10-month-old baby is doing that was so egregious that God, decided this baby is evil? Because you gave some examples of how, I'm still talking.
Yeah.
So I gave some examples. Sorry, you gave some examples of how children could be evil. You said, look, children can still kill their parents. Okay, fine, but what exactly is a 10-month-old baby doing that would make them evil? I want you to give a answer to this.
I can't give you one because I am not God.
Oh my
For
God.
the 10th time. Nobody can judge anybody and what their potential is unless they are God. Do you understand? Humans can't do it for other humans. You can't do it for me. I can't do it for you. I can't do it for any of your children because I'm not going to know who they're going to be at 80 years old or who they are right now. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. I mean, you say that humans can't judge other humans, but earlier you were doing the exact same thing, right? You say, hey, look, this world is so corrupt. This world is full of pedophile elites who are running the world as globalists. Like, that was a judgment you made. This is not something that you read in the Bible.
Yes.
And even if you did
Yes,
read this
every
particular
children
sentence in the Bible,
children
I'm
is
still
wrong.
talking. Sorry, I'm still talking.
Yeah.
Even if you read
Yeah.
this particular sentence in the Bible that the world is run by the elite globalist pedophiles like Epstein, which it's not in the Bible, but even if you did read it, it's still a matter of human judgment and interpretation to take that and to say, hey, look, this person doing this thing in Sweden or whatever, this is who the Bible is talking about, and this is the bad person. That is an interpretation that you're making, and that's a human judgment. But just 2 seconds ago, you said human judgment cannot be trusted.
Very good point.
Yes, it cannot be trusted to veto someone's morality. That's the one thing that we can't be trusted it to do. We can trust it to veto whether or not someone committed a crime. We can trust it to veto some other stuff like that. And even then, it's not perfect 100% of the time. I'm sure I don't need to tell you that. Okay?
Isn't someone committing
what
a
about that
crime
example?
someone doing something wrong?
Yes, but obviously that's within a spectrum. We're not
Oh
going to
my
treat the
God.
guy who stole bread the same way that we're going to treat the guy who stole a bomb. Come
In the
on.
same way, we're not going to treat someone who's grown, fully grown, at the same crime level of
No,
an
because
infant, bro.
we judge a 25-year-old the same way that we judge an 18-year-old in court. So no, maybe
Yeah,
with a
but we
Okay,
child,
wouldn't
yes.
judge a
that
5-year-old
was
like
the
that.
only thing that she said that was correct. But with any other thing, that we don't actually use that. Even
Wait,
when
are
it
you
comes to
confused on the
children,
difference?
we would most likely run a psychological test before we even, you know what I mean,
But
went forward with that. And that's why I
Do
also
you,
referenced psychology being a social science and not a STEM field, because that's also an important point. If you want to talk about the psychology of children and whether or not we can determine whether or not a child is evil, yes, we can actually look at whether or not a child has sociopathic tendencies or psychotic tendencies. We actually do know that some of these traits that these global elites have, aka sociopathy, dark triad, which is talked about very commonly in psychology, we do know some of these fucking traits. So no, I won't really be told by some people that no, we don't know shit, we don't know anything. We couldn't practically judge a child to be like a sociopath if we wanted to. No, we absolutely can. Shut up. Like it's
Okay,
retarded.
okay. So guess what you just used? You just used human reasoning and you just proved our point. Because God
Yeah,
didn't tell you
yes,
that
yes,
child did evil. You use
yes.
human
We
reasoning.
have
No
to.
way.
Yes, yes, we have
I
to.
also want to
We have.
say that I just want to say very quickly that just because someone is clinically a sociopath doesn't mean they're evil. It does mean that they are callous in certain ways and that they are capable of manipulating people, but it doesn't mean that they're going to do that. It doesn't mean that they want to do that. And it doesn't mean that they
Okay,
should have
okay,
moral accountability for this condition
sure,
that they're born with, right? It's not like
okay,
something
sure.
they've chosen.
Yeah, it is. You do choose to kill somebody. Yep. Next.
I'm not talking about that's a straw man. I'm not talking about choosing to kill someone. I'm talking about choosing to
Even
be a
if you're a
sociopath.
Lemonety, even if you're a sociopath, you choose to kill somebody. You understand that? There are plenty of
Yeah,
sociopaths
but
and psychopaths that